Right now at 6, a one-on-one exclusive with the Transportation Secretary on the door plug blowout.
It was shocking, and it should never have happened.
What Pete Buttigieg says about restoring confidence and the latest findings from federal investigators.
Does that finding make you more worried, less worried?
Well, bottom line, it's unacceptable.
Plus, PPS parents react to a former negotiator for the teachers union now saying the strike went on longer than it should have.
But to hear someone inside the union say that is just kind of mind-blowing.
And forget the floor, a sneak peek inside the terminal of the future that'll have you looking up. So what about that iconic carpet?
Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm China Green alongside David Mogo live at PDX, where he talked with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And David, you spoke with the Secretary about holding Boeing accountable after the door plug blowout last month.
Well, China, I'm just watching the planes take off behind the camera here on runway 28R at PDX, headed into the sky. Business as usual for them, not business as usual for Boeing, and it hasn't been for the last 5.5 weeks here, with the Transportation Secretary saying something needs to change. In fact, a lot of things need to change. We're going to get into that conversation in just a minute, but it took place underneath the brand new mass timber roof inside the main terminal PDX that hasn't even opened yet. Perhaps appropriate considering we're talking about the future of aviation here in Portland, the future of air travel, but also the future when it comes to safety. It's not just the columns, of course, holding this roof up, but the perception that it is still safe to fly, perhaps a bit shattered after that door plug blowout on Alaska 1282 back on January 5th. Last week, the FAA chief told Congress the system at Boeing is not working because the company is not delivering safe aircraft. Those are his words. So I asked the secretary if he agreed with that. Take a listen.
We need to look at the close calls and treat them just the same way that America used to treat the last crash.
So what do you do differently?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, Boeing, of course, is under a microscope right now. FAA is looking at every step of their process to understand how their, not just their quality control, but really their safety culture works and what needs to change. But it's more than that. This is also leading to a look at the way that there is delegation of authority. This is a structure that Congress created in order to effectively divide up some of the labor and the expense of quality assurance between the manufacturer and the taxpayer. I think everything needs to be on the table right now, because what we've learned here should propel a set of actions to make sure, again, that every plane coming out of Boeing, that we have the confidence that it is 1,000% safe.
1,000% safe. Pretty high bar, all things considered. You heard the Secretary talking a little bit about what had been authorized by Congress. So let's tell you where we might go from here. How do we get from where we are with the door plug to a system that is, in his words, 1,000% safe? So it might have to do something with inspectors. For a long time, Boeing has been able to inspect its own work on behalf of the FAA. Talk about whether or not that should change. You know that some of the major components, the fuselages for MAX jets, are made by a contracting company named Spirit Aerosystems in Wichita, Kansas. Are there conversations happening about whether that should change? Quite frankly speaking, he said, everything's on the table, as you heard, and right now the whole idea, the whole resolution, the solution, if you will, remains under construction. So there you have it. A little bit later, speaking of construction, we're going to take you back inside that May terminal at PDX that's set to open in May, China. We're going to talk about the roof, the lighting, the greenery, the walk through the forest, and what's going to happen with that classic carpet, the one from the 80s. It's actually coming back. We'll have that coming up.
I can't wait for the answer for that, David. Thank you. To your headlines now. A man facing bias crime charges after an attack in Old Town Saturday appeared in court today. Portland police say this started as a call about someone lighting clothes on fire. When officers showed up, they say they saw 42-year-old Corey Nesenson attacking another man, biting him, yelling racial slurs, and cutting him with scissors. The victim, Peyton Thomas, says he saw Nesenson following an interracial couple and then turned and he attacked him. Thomas confronted Nesenson in court today, urging the judge to keep him locked up.
But this man really tried to take my life. You see my ear band-aids up? Okay? I can show you the videos of where he bit me like I was a f***ing dog.
Nessenson pleaded not guilty. He's due back Wednesday for a preventative detention hearing. A man accused of driving drunk and causing a deadly crash in downtown Portland over the weekend also appeared in court this afternoon. 46-year-old Jacob Tabor pleaded not guilty to manslaughter, assault, and DUI charges. According to court documents, police say he was driving drunk on Nadeau Parkway just before 3 a.m. Saturday. That's when he clipped a car, sped off, and rear-ended a car stopped at a red light at Southwest Columbia. A 23-year-old man sitting in the back seat of that car died. 2 others inside were hurt. Tabor was also injured, and at the hospital, he registered a blood alcohol reading of 0.25. That is more than 3 times the legal limit. A judge scheduled a court hearing tomorrow to decide if he should be held in jail without bail. And take a look at these photos just into the newsroom from the Oregon coast. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Fisheries, this is a fin whale that washed up today at Sunset Beach in Warrenton. Now, unfortunately, the whale did not survive. Officials will perform a necropsy tomorrow to try to figure out why the whale died, as well as figure out a plan to remove it from the beach. Matt?
Wow, that is a big, big whale there. Amazing story. All right, let's take you to the gorge right now. The sky is cleared, some nice color from our camera in the Dalles. Still 50 degrees, still winds coming in from the west. That is going to turn around. It's going to get colder, and the winds will be out of the east. Mount Hood still showing in the post-sunset light. 24 at Timberline, headed into the teens tomorrow morning, and then headed for snow beginning tomorrow night through Wednesday through Thursday. Now, this is showing us about 1.5 feet by Friday, but I think we may actually see double those amounts at some of the ski areas because it's going to be a very, very productive snowfall Wednesday and Thursday in the Cascades and in the gorge, but not in the Portland area. You see the winter storm watch is east of Troutdale out through Hood River. We'll show you how much is going to fall there over the next couple of days, and it will be significant. So travel through the gorge is going to get dicey Wednesday and Thursday. Tomorrow morning it might also be a little bit dicey because we'll have thick fog in the valleys tomorrow morning. May impact the morning commute, so just start thinking about that now. Then again, the heavy mountain snow and the snow and the ice in the gorge. More on that in a bit. China, back to you.
The Station 75 happened, I wasn't surprised. So unfortunately, here was another one that we had to take care of our firefighters and make sure they're safe.
Gresham firefighters are back in their training center today after it temporarily closed down due to high radon levels. This comes after Fire Station 75 tested 3 times the normal levels last month. Daisy Caballero joins us from Gresham with the details. Daisy, good evening.
Good evening, China. Yeah, radon levels were once again tested inside of the training center over the weekend and were found to be safe enough for crews to return.
We need new fire stations up to modern codes so our firefighters are safe.
Gresham firefighters are sounding the alarm after unsafe levels of radon were found inside their training center on Monday, February 5th.
A lot of concerns about what the health risks they've been subjected to.
But this isn't the first time high levels were found inside their facilities. Last month, Fire Station 75 had to close down after radon levels were 3 times the safe amount. Here's Kevin Larson, union president for Local 1062.
It's just a symptom of a larger issue with our fire stations. They need attention, and they have not been taken care of for over 3 decades, so we need help.
Radon is a colorless and odorless radioactive gas that naturally comes from rocks and soil in the ground. And experts say exposure over months and years can be dangerous and increase risk to lung cancer.
We've had a couple occupational deaths over the last year, and so obviously this has made our firefighters very concerned.
During last week's closure, crews installed 2 mitigation systems inside of the training center, allowing ventilation and the removal of radon underneath the slab of concrete.
It took them only 2 days to install, but then they have to measure the radon levels again to make sure it works.
Now Larson says he wasn't surprised by the news, but hopes it's the last facility that reaches these unsafe levels of radon.
Well, all of our fire stations, like I said, have been over 3 decades old, and they need addressed.
Now, as of today, Kevin tells me that all 6 of their fire stations have been tested. China, back to you.
Daisy Caballero reporting live from Gresham. Thank you, Daisy. 3 months after the Portland teachers strike, a bombshell letter from the bargaining chair of the teachers union claiming leadership mishandled negotiations. Schools were closed for nearly a month due to a gridlock in bargaining. And Thomas Schultz joined us now from Lincoln High. And Thomas, what was in that letter?
Yeah, well, China, in this letter from Steve Lancaster, the former bargaining chair leader for the Portland Public Schools Teachers Union, he says that they should have narrowed their focus during negotiations. Instead, he says they tried to get everything they wanted, leading to 11 days of missed school. And of course, that created gridlock in negotiations and exasperation for thousands of families.
It's just so upsetting.
Months after Portland public teachers striked, leading to weeks of missed school, families remain pessimistic about students' education this school year.
It's a little bit of a joke.
And now, a recent report from Steve Lancaster, the former bargaining chair of the teachers union, says some issues could have been avoided. Lancaster says the union should have been more realistic and willing to bargain, though for months, their proposal didn't change. And 9 months into negotiations, he says Portland Public still didn't know what teachers wanted most.
It kind of seemed like it really just devolved.
One big holdup, disagreement on how much money PPS had. During the strike, district leaders said they couldn't afford a teacher proposal that would increase the district's budget by around $250 million.
I've been saying this from the beginning, compensation, class size, you have to manage those two dials or you could put your school district in insolvency. We don't want to do that.
Though for weeks, teachers disagreed, claiming PPS had more funds than they claimed. Eventually, Governor Tina Kotek brought in the state's chief financial officer to clarify how much money was actually available. Now, Lancaster says Teachers Union President Angela Bonilla misestimated available funds. We reached out to Bonilla for an interview. She wasn't available. Though for weeks, some parents thought the union was being unreasonable.
It kind of felt like this impossible situation, and I remember thinking during the strike, well, how does this end? Like, if they're asking for more than what PPS has, how does this end?
And in November, with no end in sight, both sides argued schools needed more state funding, an approach Lancaster says would have worked better if the union threatened to strike later in the year in February, striking during the legislative session and giving teachers more time to leverage a deal.
What do we want? Safe schools!
Instead, teachers picketed after an October strike authorization, throwing families in a panic which they're still recovering from.
It was beyond frustrating. Like, it's appalling, upsetting, horrible.
Just horrible is what parents said. You heard it there. And of course, Lancaster, he says even more in this letter too, saying that in some instances, Bonilla acted unilaterally without discussing it with the bargaining team. Now, Lancaster in November stepped down from his role. We reached out to him for an interview today. He declined, saying that the union is still gathering feedback on the outcome of the strike from its members. China?
Thomas, thank you for that update.